December 7, 1941, 7:55 a.m. Pearl Harbor, territory of Hawaii. The first bombs fall before most sailors finish breakfast. Metal tears open. Battleship Row erupts in fire. Smoke climbs into the blue Pacific sky like a signal flare announcing a new age of violence. On the deck of the USS Arizona, men run barefoot across steel already hot from explosions. Sirens scream, ammunition cooks off. A torpedo slams into the hull of the USS Oklahoma, rolling the battleship like a wounded animal. Within minutes, more than 180 Japanese aircraft carve across the harbor in precise formation. Dive bombers shriek downward. Fighters strafe the airfields at Wheeler and Hickam. American pilots never reach their cockpits. This is not an accident. It is choreography. In Washington, D.C., word reaches the White House in fragments. Reports are confused, numbers uncertain, the scale incomprehensible. In the Oval Office, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt sits behind his desk, the weight of steel braces hidden beneath tailored trousers. His body is partially paralyzed. His nation is about to be anything but. He listens. He asks one question. Is this an isolated attack? The answer is no. If Roosevelt hesitates, if he fractures politically, if Congress splinters, if America retreats into isolation, the Pacific becomes a Japanese lake. Britain collapses under German pressure. The Soviet Union bleeds alone. The 20th century tilts toward a different victor. Within 24 hours, Roosevelt will ask Congress for war, but the decision he makes in these minutes is larger than retaliation. It is a choice about the future architecture of global power. For years from this burning harbor, the United States will stand alone with an atomic monopoly, a navy larger than the rest of the world combined, and an economy that dwarfs every rival. The question is not whether America would fight. The question is whether Franklin Roosevelt could transform disaster into dominance. This is World War II. 4 years of war, America becomes world superpower. But before the bombs fell over Pearl Harbor, the world had already begun to collapse. Europe in 1939 was a continent exhausted by memory and blinded by hope. The Great War had ended only 2 decades earlier. Its scars were visible in every capital. The Treaty of Versailles had humiliated Germany economically and psychologically. Hyperinflation had destroyed savings. Political extremism thrived in the wreckage. In Berlin, Adolf Hitler promised restoration and revenge. He rearmed in violation of international agreements. He absorbed Austria. He dismantled Czechoslovakia piece by piece. Western democracies protested but hesitated. In London, Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain believed time could be bought. In Paris, political instability paralyzed resolve. Appeasement became policy. In Moscow, Joseph Stalin purged his own officer corps, weakening the Red Army but consolidating personal control. The Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany, buying time and dividing Poland in secret. In Asia, Imperial Japan pursued its own expansion. It had seized Manchuria in 1931. By 1937, it was locked in brutal war with China. Tokyo's military leadership believed survival required empire, royal, rubber, iron. The United States watched from across 2 oceans. Officially neutral, emotionally divided. Isolationism was not fringe, it was mainstream. The memory of trench warfare still lingered. The America First Committee drew massive support. Many believed European conflict was cyclical and distant. Franklin Roosevelt understood something others did not. Geography had shrunk. Industrial warfare meant oceans no longer guaranteed safety. Air power, submarines, economic leverage, these were new weapons in a connected world. Yet Roosevelt could not move faster than public opinion allowed. Between 1939 and 1941, he walked a political tightrope. He pushed through the Lend-Lease Act in March 1941, allowing the United States to supply Britain with weapons and equipment. It was aid without formal war, arsenal without declaration. The U.S. economy stirred from depression. Factories reopened, shipyards expanded, military contracts flowed. Still, America was not fully mobilized. The army ranked 18th in the world in 1939, behind Portugal. The Japanese leadership saw opportunity. If America remained psychologically divided, if Britain fell, if Germany crushed the Soviet Union, the United States would face a hostile Eurasian supercontinent. War became less a question of ideology and more of timing, and timing favors the bold. The men who would decide history were not abstractions. They were personalities, ambition, fear, calculation, ego. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was both patrician and pragmatist. Born into wealth in Hyde Park, educated at Harvard and Columbia, he carried the cadence of confidence. But polio in 1921 reshaped him. It stripped physical dominance but sharpened political empathy. He projected optimism publicly. Privately, he absorbed risk like a strategist. He believed in incremental escalation, probe, measured reaction, advance again across the Atlantic. Winston Churchill embodied defiance, a student of empire, a romantic of war. He viewed Hitler as existential threat long before others did. Churchill needed American industry. Without it, Britain would starve or submit. Adolf Hitler operated from ideological absolutism. He believed in destiny, in racial hierarchy, in rapid, decisive war. His early victories in Poland and France reinforced his sense of infallibility in Tokyo. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto understood American industrial capacity. He had studied in the United States. He knew Pearl Harbor might awaken a sleeping giant. Yet he also believed delay meant strangulation by embargo. Joseph Stalin trusted no one. He expanded territory in Eastern Europe while preparing for inevitable betrayal. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, Stalin nearly collapsed psychologically. Then he adapted brutally. These leaders were not just heads of state, they were decision engines under pressure. Roosevelt's internal struggle was uniquely American. He had to prepare for total war without appearing to provoke it. He expanded the Navy, instituted the first peacetime draft, negotiated destroyers for bases agreements with Britain, froze Japanese assets after Tokyo moved into French Indochina. Each action tightened the noose. Japan's oil reserves dwindled, negotiations stalled. The geography of the Pacific dictated strategy. Island chains stretched like stepping stones. Philippines, Guam, Wake, Midway, Hawaii. Control meant projection. Projection meant survival. Japan calculated that a crippling first strike would shatter American will long enough to consolidate empire. They misread the psychology of Roosevelt. After Pearl Harbor, Congress declared war almost unanimously. Isolation evaporated overnight. The United States did not simply retaliate. It mobilized factories, shifted to round-the-clock production. The War Production Board coordinated industry. Automobile plants began manufacturing tanks and aircraft. Shipyards adopted modular construction, launching Liberty ships in weeks instead of months. Women entered industrial labor at unprecedented scale. African American workers migrated north, reshaping demographics. The American economy transformed into the largest war machine in human history. Roosevelt managed alliance politics carefully. Germany first became strategy. Despite Japanese aggression, the administration prioritized defeating Hitler. Europe's industrial base and population posed a greater long-term threat. This decision required discipline. Public anger focused on Japan. Roosevelt insisted on sequence. The strategic buildup extended across continents. In the Atlantic, U-boats hunted merchant convoys. American destroyers escorted ships even before formal declaration. Intelligence breakthroughs, most critically British code-breaking at Bletchley Park, revealed German naval positions. In the Pacific, the Doolittle raid in April 1942 struck Tokyo symbolically, militarily, minor, psychologically enormous. Japan responded by advancing toward Midway. Here, intelligence altered destiny. American cryptanalysts under Commander Joseph Rochefort deciphered Japanese communications, identifying Midway as target. Admiral Chester Nimitz positioned carriers in ambush. June 4, 1942, the Battle of Midway. Dive bombers descended through broken clouds. In 5 minutes, 3 Japanese carriers burned. By day's end, 4 were lost. The strategic initiative shifted was not inevitable. Had code-breaking failed, had American carriers been located first, the Pacific War might have extended years longer. Japanese consolidation could have solidified a defensive perimeter too costly to breach. Roosevelt did not command fleets personally, but his insistence on industrial output, his faith in intelligence integration, his coordination with British and Soviet allies created the conditions for these victories. War is not won by single battles alone. It is won by sustained capacity. The day everything changed in Europe began before dawn on June 6, 1944. Normandy, France, 12:16 a.m. Paratroopers from the 101st and 82nd Airborne Divisions jump into darkness. Anti-aircraft fire streaks upward. Many land miles from intended drop zones. Units scatter on the English coast. Thousands of ships wait. 6:30 a.m. The ramps drop on Omaha Beach. Machine gun fire rips through the first wave. Soldiers drown under weight of equipment. Obstacles choke the shoreline. German defenses, positioned on bluffs, dominate the killing zone. Radio communication falters. Officers die early. Small groups form spontaneously. There is no elegant maneuver, only survival. By mid-morning, casualties mount. Some commanders consider withdrawal. Then small units begin climbing the bluffs, using grenades, flamethrowers, sheer momentum. Breakthrough emerges not from grand choreography but from decentralized initiative. Roosevelt, thousands of miles away, tracks updates through cables and briefings. He understands what failure would mean. A repulsed invasion could delay liberation by years. Stalin, suspicious of Western delay, might reconsider cooperation. By nightfall, the beachhead holds. The Western Front is reopened. The hour-by-hour choreography of D-Day represented years of build-up logistics, deception, weather analysis, aerial supremacy. Operation Fortitude misled German command into expecting invasion at Pas-de-Calais. Fake armies, inflatable tanks, double agents. Hitler slept late that morning. Field marshals hesitated to deploy armored reserves without direct authorization. Minutes mattered. Indecision at the top cascaded downward. Across the Pacific, the island-hopping campaign advanced through brutal calculus. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Iwo Jima, Okinawa. Each island costs thousands of lives. Short sentences cannot soften it. Flamethrowers in bunkers, night bonsai charges. Caves cleared with grenades. Japanese strategy shifted toward attrition. Kamikaze attacks targeted American carriers. yet industrial imbalance widened. By 1944, American shipyards produced aircraft carriers faster than Japan could replace losses. Pilot training pipelines expanded. Radar improved targeting. Roosevelt's health deteriorated during these years. Weight loss, fatigue, blood pressure climbing. Yet at Yalta in February 1945, he negotiated post-war frameworks with Churchill and Stalin. The United Nations concept took shape. Soviet entry into war against Japan was secured. 2 months later, Roosevelt was dead.